Hey Eagles fans, welcome to Eagles Unfiltered. Just going to break down today's game against Port, our second win in a row, which has obviously brought us to more wins this season than we had for the entire season of 2025, which is absolutely probably unexpected this early on in the season, but certainly not unwelcome. So, really interesting game, this one. Another lackluster first quarter. I'll talk a bit later about what Mini said in his press conference regarding that, but as we know, pretty much every game this season and pre-season outside of the Freo game, we've just had really slow starts to get up and running. And obviously this one had its challenges due to the time zone challenges with the early start of the match. So it started the equivalent of 9:30 in the morning for the West Coast team. But they played a lot of games at that time over the pre-season anyway. So I guess they probably weren't too used to getting it and had a bit of a routine for it. So thankfully it didn't impact the way we were able to play the game, and we ended up 2-point winners in the end off of Jamie Crick's point after the siren. So breaking the game down a bit, obviously that first quarter, they got the jump on us again for the third, or really fourth game in a row if you include the preseason game against Port, which is obviously something that's a little bit concerning. If you watch McWalter's press conference, he does touch on that. He says that it actually is a pattern now, and it's something that they're going to put a lot of priority into addressing, because it's a lot easier to win games when you're already in front than to chase up pretty reasonable margins. I think it blew out to 24 points at one stage and looked like even going further ahead than that. Could have been more, I forget exactly. But being able to reel that back in again for pretty much, well, basically the third game in a row. Obviously, we didn't get near winning the Gold Coast game, but we were still able to win the second half. But it is pleasing to show that in recent years, of course, our players would have just turned their toes up and just gone, oh no, here we go again. And their heads would have dropped and that would have been game over, and they'd just go through the motions. And we sort of went through about 3 seasons of that up until last year. At the end of Simo's reign, just seemed like a lot of players were over it. And I get that. It is probably pretty demoralising to go into games knowing that you're probably going to lose them every week, and then once the opposition gets run on early, knowing that you're going down the same route, and it would be very mentally challenging. I mean, who could forget Brady Hoff, breaking down in that post-game interview? It's pretty, felt so sorry for the guy. They're just losing all the time, and, Oscar Allen had something similar a couple of years ago too. So obviously, players don't play to lose games, they play to win. So getting over that mental hurdle of no matter what the end result, and just put the scoreboard out of your mind and just head down, bum up, and just fight the game out is something that McWalter's really been able to drill into this team. Even last year as well, even though we only won the one game, we've been able to do it obviously in 2 out of 3 games this season, and come away with 2 wins from 3 games. So, I mean, we're sitting currently in 9th. Who would have thought that at the start of the season? Heaps of pundits didn't even having us winning a game. So that's been really impressive. So back to the first quarter, obviously Georgiades and Jack Whitlock both got off the chain a bit, and Jack Lukosius kicked the goal early. So they looked like they were going to dominate and get a run on until Bo Allen kicked that first goal. And then that was a bit of a steadier for us. And look, we were quite lucky that they missed quite a few shots as well. I think they had 10 shots on goal in the first quarter for 5-5. So obviously any one more of those probably would have sealed the deal for us, especially considering we only won by 2 points, well, 1 point before the final siren went. So sometimes you need a bit of luck in this game. They were extremely accurate in that preseason game, not so much in this game, which really helped us out. But then, of course, the game just turned on its head once the players sort of settled in, stuck to the plan. And if you look at my videos earlier in the week regarding Mini McWalter's plan for West Coast this year, I'll leave a link in the description. You'll see that once we were able to get the game on their terms and really press up and pressure the ball carrier, the whole game just flipped on its head. So essentially, we've gone from letting Port just do their own thing, and it was obviously what we had to watch out for. And he talked about it pre-game of just letting Port players just chip the ball around uncontested and just get a player free and then move the ball up by foot. And they were just able to do that at will in the first quarter. But once that was tidied up in the second quarter, they found it going extremely tough, because then they were constantly kicking to a contest or having to rush their disposal or bomb forward. And a few times they did get off lucky and they did get some really accurate kicks from, tied up on the boundary for goal, but it was a lot harder for them to get the ball forward and actually get quality shots on goal. Now, I just do want to touch on the umpiring. It was pretty bad this game. So I know that we were on the end of some pretty rough decisions, but so was Port, especially the Harley Reid market clearly bounced, and Jason Horne-Francis should have been kicking for goal, but wasn't awarded the mark. But on the flip side of that, apparently holding the ball didn't exist for us, but Port Adelaide just kept getting them through, even though our players were pretty much doing the same thing. I think Butters was spun 720 in one tackle at one point and play on. So Sunday umpires, as Simo used to said, but you're always going to get the work experience kids when you're off Broadway, and I don't think it particularly affected the result, and it might have actually gone in favour for us, even though we were behind in the free kicks with the Harley Reid goal and the non-mark to Jason Horne-Francis. So I'll take the luck where we can get it. Nice to be on the receiving end for once. But basically, we knew Port would probably struggle a bit in the midfield due to the absence of Rosie and, of course, Miles Bergman being out as well. But basically, we were essentially dominated them at stoppage. So I think the stoppage differential here was quite significant. We were plus 16 in clearance stoppages. So we actually were one down in centre clearance stoppages, but plus 15 for the match, and 16 of them came from stoppages, which is a huge, huge differential. It actually flies against exactly what we did last week against North, which was the opposite thing. We would lose the stoppage and the clearance, but then get the very next possession, which was usually contested, and then we won the game through that way, whereas we didn't have to do that this game because we were winning the clearances. So, I mean, the ruck battle was pretty even. We still lost the hit-outs by 5, but I didn't think that there was any particular loss on our part. Flynn wasn't dominated this time, and he was actually one of our higher-rated players on the ground because he did a lot of work at the clearance to get the ball out that didn't necessarily result in possessions. But you can tell by the way we played that Port Adelaide had nearly 40 more possessions than us. They do tend to possess the ball a lot more. They kick the ball to players out in the open to try and retain possession, and we already knew that because that's what they did against Essendon, and they tried to do that against Port, but Port were able to close them out really well. We did win all the clearances, obviously, but the first possession to clearance, we were 85% to Port 61.5. So that is a huge difference between what they were able to do and what we were able to do to clear the ball out and get the ball moving. They obviously like to control the ball a lot more than us. They had 21 more marks, but it didn't really matter because, as we know, we're going for territory, not necessarily controlling possession around the ground. We want to go fast and direct a lot more than our opposition, and we've been doing that this season. And we were way more efficient going inside 50. So we had 27 scoring shots from 42 entries. Like, that is huge. Like, that is a massive, that is huge for us. Being that efficient and getting that many scoring shots from less inside 50s, I think it was 12 less inside 50s than Port. Excellent. I mean, they had 54 inside 50s and they had 2 less scoring shots than us. So that's probably where the game really was won for us. We're just so efficient getting in there. And not to mention, we kicked quite a few goals from outside 50 as well. I think Waterman kicked a couple. There was that one after the siren on half time, and then there was that huge bomb that went nearly 70 metres in the third, I think it was. But yeah, just being way more efficient and gaining territory as fast as possible, and just being a lot more direct with the ball and moving it quick when it was our turn to go quick. Whereas Port tried to slow the game down, but it wasn't really working for them after the first quarter because we were able to match their tempo and really raise our pressure as well, which is, I think, around nearly 200 for the entire game, which is really, really good. And to further that, we obviously, moving the ball from our defensive 50 to score, we're able to do that transition football, which emphasises that point even further. So Port Adelaide, for instance, they scored 3 goals, 3, so 21 points from that source, and we doubled that, 42 points from scores from defensive 50, which means that we were able to turn the ball over in our defensive half from the opposition, regain possession, and then just go with it. If we were a bit more accurate, we could have cooked a lot more goals, but that's really pleasing to see. That's actually the Collingwood sort of MO. I think Western Bulldogs kind of do the same thing. Once the ball's turned over in their defensive half, they just turn and go as fast as possible. So it's good to see that we're also adding that string to our bow as well. Basically, Port really did well to control the game as much as possible, but they just could never get it on their terms to get ahead of us when it really mattered. So we controlled our defensive scores from 50, and obviously we were highly efficient when we went inside forward 50 because we could just go really fast and collect cleaner entries and more opportunities for our forwards, which is great to see. And obviously this is on brand for McQualter and his game plan, as I discussed in my video earlier in the week. So as for probably my pick of the players, well, it's obviously hard to go past Harley Reid. I thought he had an amazing game, just the 21 disposals, but we didn't really have any high possession getters in the team. I think the highest we actually had for West Coast was Tim Kelly with 23, who was excellent himself, especially after Yo went off. He just showed real maturity. He went in really hard. He went when it was his turn to go, and he's really clean with his disposal. Yeah, I was really pleased to see at the end that kick. He got to Cripps with just over 30 seconds to go. Yeah, a lot of the times our players would have just blazed at goals, and it could have gone back up the other end, and we could have lost the game or drawn. But he just saw Cripps in the open and got the ball to him, so that was excellent. But I'd say Harley's probably my best on ground. If Dersma had have actually nailed 2 more of those goals, I probably would have had him, but he was pretty much as good as Harley in my opinion. I think Harley was just had a bit more authority around the ground and presence, and really sort of did a lot of stuff off the ball as well to assist teammates, which is just really great to see. It's what we want to see from him, as we know. But he only gave away, I think, the 1 free kick today, which is unusual for him. So he's able to play right on the edge the whole game, but he didn't cross the line. I mean, the only time he gave away a free kick, I think, was that 50 to Butters when he supposedly hit him in the face. But when you saw the actual vision of it, it looks like it was just him forcefully pushing him in the chest, and Butters went a bit floppy-necked to milk the free kick, which he did. It is what it is. I don't think Harley did anything wrong there, but whatever. We'll just put it down as Harley tax. I thought Jack Graham was excellent again. He just provides so much leadership and pressure around the ball. He came away with 9 tackles in the end, didn't get a lot of the ball himself, only 13 disposals, kicked that really important goal early on from a really tight angle as well, so stood up when it mattered. Jake Waterman obviously could have had an absolute day out if he had his kicking boots on again. Still kicked 4 goals, but he had 4 behinds, but he was very dominant around the ground, and he was double teamed a lot of the time and was able to halve a lot of those contests, even though he was outnumbered. So he's just such a strong player, such a competitor, did really well, and it's just such an important part of our team and structure going forward. And then I think a lot of the other guys sort of had moments, like Josh Lindsay was really good. He had a few turnovers, but also had some absolute darts that really set us up to score as well. I mean, he had 19 touches, so shown what he can do, nearly 500 metres gained. He was, I think, our second highest metres gained player. Just behind Harley Reid. So he's not only just getting the ball, but he's doing damage with it. He's not looking to do little dinky kicks sideways and just retain possession. When he goes, he's looking to take territory and kick to dangerous positions. And more often than not, he's hitting those kicks. And he's only a second gamer. He's going to get a lot better, and he needs to stay in the team, in my opinion. And then, of course, Baker did really well around the ball. He played a lot up forward this game to provide a lot of pressure. I presume he was covering for the loss of Murdoch, and did quite well up there, I thought. And then, of course, Job Shanahan just stood up so well so late, especially with a minute and a half to go, that huge pack mark. He's 19 years old and he's playing like Prime McGovern in the back line. So really good tick from all our youth is playing really well, but also our seniors are doing their part and standing up as well, which is great to see. A couple of guys had a bit of off days that I thought. Brady Hoff kind of looked like he was still getting out of bed prior to half time. He just made some really curious decisions from somebody who's normally really rock solid down there, but thankfully it didn't affect the result. And I thought Ruben Jimby was fairly well comfortably beaten by Georgiades on the day, especially early. I thought he halved it late, probably in the second half. He was able to break even in the contest, but Georgiades pretty much just tore him a new one in the first half, I thought. Ruben was just seemed really off the boil this game, unlike last week. So, but again, they're young players. They're going to have ups and downs, but consistently over the journey, they've both been quite good. So they're allowed an off day from time to time. It is what it is, so I'm not going to hang them for it. And of course, the big negative coming out of the game would be Elliot Yo's apparent groin injury reporting. Now, McQualter did say in the presser that it does seem to be on the minor side, but he will still be sent for scans. So what does that mean? With Yo's body and condition, to be honest, I'm expecting at least 3 to 4 weeks out, which is a big blow. I really hope I'm wrong, but as we know, he's had groin issues in the past. So I think that we'll just really want to take as much care for him as possible. But that would be a really big blow if he's out for an extended period of time. And of course, the other issue is the supposed sling tackle that Robertson did on Butters. Now, Butters played out the game with no issue. So I'm hoping that at the very most, he might just get a fine, because there was, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but someone else did a sling tackle the other week and the player was okay. But because the player was okay, the 1 week was reduced to a fine. I would hope that that's used as precedent in this should Robertson get cited, because he has become really important on the inside, especially after Butters got off the chain early, and Butters still had 30-odd possessions. But Dev Robertson was really able to quell his influence in the second half especially. So it would be really important for us, especially going to the Sydney game next week. We're probably going to need somebody to mind, Warner, presuming Heaney and obviously Goulden are out. So that means Warner's the probably the most dangerous person in the midfield for Sydney. So we're definitely going to need someone to quell his influence if we decide not to go head to head with him and put someone on him. And I think Robertson can be that guy to at least keep him a bit quieter than usual. So fingers crossed for both Yo and that Dev doesn't undergo the match review panel tribunal lotto and lose. Certainly hoping that at the most he gets a fine, if not let off. So yeah, that's it for the players. I mean, obviously it feels really good to come off the back of 2 wins in a row. I can't remember the last time we won 2 wins in a row. I think it was 2024. Actually, it was only a couple of years ago, so we didn't have to wait too long. Poor old North, I think, haven't won 2 games in a row for about 5 years. Yeah, great to have another win. I really didn't think we were a chance in this one, but I did think we would give a good showing. So exceptionally pleased to win the game and hold on late. And the guys that showed the most composure late were our young players. So that really gives us a lot of confidence moving forward, that a scenario that we probably haven't really trained for, considering we just simply haven't really been in that position to protect a lead that small for quite some time. The players, whilst they had some shaky moments, were able to execute and hold on to the lead. I thought Cooper Duff-Tyler was really smart in some of his stuff in that last minute along the boundary. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Kelly's kick to find Cripps out in the open who could just milk the clock and just run down the siren, close out the game. Showed some real maturity from the guys to just not panic with the ball in hand and try and get it as long as possible, but to actually look for the right option to ensure that we could lock the win away, which they were able to do. So really happy. Obviously, that's 2 games in a row that we've been able to come from behind and win against what people would consider much better opponents than us. And pleasingly, it's our younger players having a lot of impacts and input into these wins. They're not just riding on the coattails of senior players doing all the heavy lifting. They're getting involved just as much as those senior players and contributing just as much. So a really even blend. And there's no one player getting like 30-odd disposals, although Harley did last week, but it's a really even mix of players all getting their opportunity and their time to shine. And I think that this really just shows that we're getting a really strong system developing that will be able to hold up no matter who's available and who have got in reserve who can come in to fill additional spots in the case of injury or suspension. So really pleasing to see. And yeah, another big tick for Andrew McCorder's coaching. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be putting out a predicted changes video early next week once we get a better idea of who's available. And then obviously match previews, and then I think the waffle fire's up soon. So I'll start doing a few videos about that once that gets up and rolling. Otherwise, have a great rest of your weekend and enjoy watching the win a few more times. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.